Hey, happy Friday. My name is John. I'm one of the founders of whatifi. Whatifi is a highly visual financial scenario and cash flow modeling tool. We make it easy for advisors, professionals, CFOs, and even individual business owners to visually create multiple concurrent scenarios all in real time and to share those with our stakeholders. So here's our use case today. Imagine you have a CEO that's worried about staff retention and is thinking about giving pay raises to his entire team. One scenario is we could have a pay increase of 10% in the future. Another scenario is giving a 5% increase sooner than later, and then deferring the second 5% to later on down the line. And we're even going to model a scenario of what if we only do the initial 5% increase. So here in whatifi, every single one of these squares is an event that contains business logic. We have about 30, 40, 50 of these all under the hood there that you can use to create personal and professional business scenarios. Here, for example, we have a standard debit credit event, and we're saying that we have $80,000 a month in revenue for this particular company. Currently, payroll is $60,000 a month in this particular scenario, and this round circle represents a decision point. Decision number one, the 10% increase, and we're going to do that on July 1st of 2022. What we're doing is we're modifying that payroll event upstream and giving it a 10% increase on this given date. Or we have a 5% increase that we're going to do actually sooner, so we'll do that instead on January 1st of 2022. And then downstream we are deferring the second half of that payment to January 1st of 2023. So we have three scenarios here right now. We call them scenario threads, and on the right hand side here you can see each of those scenario threads. When I click on each of these tiles, they represent a unique path through that. And what these do is they calculate day by day all the account data. Cats, dogs, customers, payroll, revenue, expenses, all of that is calculated here. And we're able to sort those. So let's sort them all purely by finances. And let's look at net worth here for this particular scenario and see which one is technically the most profitable. The most profitable is to give the 5% increase in that alone. And we can see the differences over the duration of this scenario between all three of these, whether it's monthly or cumulatively across them all. We can also pop those up here and graph these at the same time too. As we click on each thread, we can see the different scenarios here. Our initial $20,000, 80,000 minus 60, plus the first round of pay increases, plus the second round of pay increases. We can graph these against each other. We can sort them by different types of account types, and we have all of our lists of those available to us here to model out this particular scenario. Now let's go one step further. You're sitting there with the CEO, and he or she says, well, actually, 5% now, 5% that later, that's great, but what if we actually make that 7% later? Does that round out okay? How does that look? Let's find out. Yes, you could build this in a spreadsheet, but we can do it much more fast here. Let's take our 5% increase. We're going to copy that. I'm going to click on the decision, and I'm going to paste it, and we now have a new modifier here. I'm going to go in and edit this. We want to make it a 7% increase instead. Go down here and change this to 7%. I'm going to update this particular event, and I'm going to go and I'm going to connect it back into our end goal here. Now, let that recalculate. You'll see we go from having 3 scenarios now to 4. And I can take a look at that particular scenario and I can see where that fits in the stack of costs now when we do the 7% instead of the 5%. All right. Next up, what can we do? Say we're thinking about how this is all going to balance out. We could also say, well, there's a chance that we have a new contract coming in. Could start in maybe February of 2022, and it would be an additional $5,000 a month. How does that all net up? We can model that as well. Again, could be done in a spreadsheet, but I think we can do that much more quickly here. So let's take a look at that one. So we'll start by adding a decision here between these two events. I'm going to insert a decision, and we'll call this 5K contract. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to branch off a revenue event, and in one scenario we do see that extra revenue, in one scenario we don't. So I'm going to add an event here. I'm going to go to our list of pre-built scenarios. I'm going to look up debit credit. It's under banking basics, and we'll add that in. And this is going to be a debit monthly of $5,000. This is our 5K, and we are going to associate that with revenue, and we're going to say that is February of 2022, and we're going to add that in, and let's add that event. So we now have that 5K potential, and now I'm going to bridge this back into here, close that, and we now have two scenarios. One where the calculation runs straight past and bypasses the 5,000, and one that includes it. And you notice now here on the side, I've gone from having 4 to now 8 scenarios all running concurrently at the same time, and I can see the impact of that 5K in all of those scenarios. So let's go a little bit deeper. Let's take a look at that 5K scenario and see what it means. If I click on this particular event, I can see which events now include that one. So for example here, I now have that inclusion. I can see that 5K increase that happens on February 1st, and now I can see what the difference is to my model. Let's take all of our 5K increases, map those all at the same time, look at those net worth cumulatively over time, and let's look at the differences between those, and it allows us to assess which decisions we want to do. So let's talk about decisions. In whatifi, we can also lock in particular scenarios. So say, for example, we decide that we're going to do the 5% staged increase. We can lock in this given decision. You notice the partner path, the gray one, is delayed, taken out, and now we're just down to 6 particular scenarios here. We're now trying to decide between whether the 5K happens or not, and to whether we do the 5% additional or the 7% additional. Maybe we decide the 7% isn't on the cards. We can choose to bypass that particular modifier, and now it is no longer calculating in our scenario. It still shows up as one of our records, but you'll see there'll be duplicates because this is no longer calculating. This particular path now mirrors the bypass path. And then at any particular stage, once your decisions are made, all of our whatifi scenarios are very shareable. With the click of a button, we can choose to share this particular scenario with others or with URL links so your other stakeholders can also be part of the decision-making process. So our ask, whatifi is an early release product right now. We are looking for testers here to experiment with our logic and give us feedback on how to better build scenarios for you and your clients. If you're interested, please reach out. Thank you.